everybody! So it's very exciting. We are at the end of my series on my favorite animated films, and this is my top 10. It's very, very cool. And these are not necessarily the best made or the most important or whatever. These are just my favorite. So I hope that you've enjoyed the earlier parts of this series, and you can go back on the playlist and you can look at all of my 50 picks. For 10, I have Fantasia. And Fantasia is a pretty divisive film. I feel like people either love it or hate it. And people think it is boring. And I don't really understand it, to be honest, because it's got so many different things, so many different worlds, and so many different stories. And you're only in one story for about 10 minutes. I mean, how short of an attention span do these people have? I don't know. I don't quite get it. But I think that people that don't like it probably would think that going to a symphony or going to a concert is boring. And it was so creative and so different, and you could tell that they were allowed sometimes to be really abstract, sometimes they were allowed to be funny, sometimes they were allowed to be dark and brooding. You get a little bit of everything. I love the orchestral arrangements conducted by Leopold Stokowski. I wonder sometimes if Disney actually understands what Walt was trying to do with Fantasia, because if you look at Fantasia 2000, the follow-up, it's treated very light. It's treated like a clip show. In this, it is treated like a concert. The highlights are The Rite of Spring, the Pastoral Symphony, I think is really fun. I like The Sorcerer's Apprentice, of course, is the one with only the real narrative, but I really like it all as a package. I love the Nutcracker Suite. I think that is just wonderful. It really feels like you're watching a ballet, but it's with these animated creatures and the fairies and everything. It's so fun. And I love the Night on Bald Mountain, and then how you see the devil and all his minions, and it coordinates with the music just perfectly. And then it goes into Ave Maria, and yeah, it's great. Its main choice is The Secret of NIMH. And this was Don Bluth's first film. He stepped away from Disney, and I'm not really that big a fan of how he left Disney, but I have to admit he made a really, really beautiful film with such a wonderful protagonist, one of my favorite mothers in all of movies. She's somebody who didn't want to be the hero. She's very nervous, she's very scared, but she has to do what she has to do for her son. It's sad. There are some moments of humor thrown in there. It's gorgeously animated. All the uses of light are just awe-inspiring. Our 8th choice is a fairly recent one. It's Song of the Sea, and you guys are probably tired of hearing me extol the virtues of Song of the Sea. It's still, even with Inside Out, it's still my favorite movie I've seen this year, even though it's technically a 2014 release. It just moved me so much. I literally sat in the theater for a good 15 minutes afterwards and just sort of absorbed it. And every time I've seen it, I like it even more. The story of little Ben learning to forgive his mother and learning to accept his mother's death and grieving, and the whole family grieving. I just love it so much. And the story of the Selkie and his sister and Circe, and them going to London and then having to make their way back, and then meeting the owl witch, who is a really interesting kind of villain who's trying to do what's right for her son. The whole thing is beautifully animated. It's one of those ones that has a little bit of a personal connection to me, because when my cousin died, her little boy spoke at her funeral, and he talked about how he would be able to understand why his mother was taken from him, and he would never get it. And I just felt like Ben was my cousin's little boy, and him going on this journey was really moving to me. So 7, I have The Prince of Egypt. Yes, see, people think I'm a DreamWorks hater. I'm not. Made top 10. They made top 10. I wish they would make more movies like this instead of all of the Shrek, Madagascar, all of those movies. Favorite interpretation of the Ten Commandments. I think it has so much reverence and awe in the scenes that need reverence and awe. With the burning bush, it's just peaceful and quiet but profound. The parting of the Red Sea is gorgeous and epic, but also quiet in its own way. All the voice performances are wonderful. It does have the typical bloated DreamWorks cast, and I'm not saying those voices were necessarily needed. I don't know if I needed Val Kilmer. I don't know if I needed Ralph Fiennes, but they're great. And I mean, really the only thing I would change about Prince of Egypt is I would get rid of the scheming priests and their song. I just love it. I love the Stephen Schwartz music, and I like the relationship that's really brought out between Ramses and Moses, and the fact that they really were brothers and they were raised together, and their jealousy and envy and every. 6, I have Toy Story. And Toy Story just celebrated its 20th birthday. It's hard to believe. I was 13 when Toy Story came out, so I was just at that phase where I was really not kind of into animation anymore. I was sort of over it. And then I saw Toy Story and I fell in love. I love the relationship between Woody and Buzz, and how Woody basically learns to overcome his jealousy at this new person, and his worry of being forgotten. And that's the main sort of heart of the film, is that Woody worries that Andy is going to forget about him. But I think all the voice work in Tom Hanks and Tim Allen and everybody else is perfect. I think it's funny. I think Sid's a great villain. I think the animation totally holds up, even though it was the first computer animated film. Really, the dog is the Scud is the only thing that doesn't look great, but I don't think it's distracting. And it has humor, it has heart. Like when Buzz learns that he really is a toy and he has to deal with that. And I just love when Woody's like, "You are a toy. You're not a space ranger, you're an action figure." It's just great. 5, I have Cinderella. And you guys, if you followed my channel for very long, you know I'm a huge Cinderella junkie. I love the story of Cinderella. I think at its heart, it's a story about hope, and that if you are a good person and you work hard, good things will happen to you. And the music is just wonderful, bibbidi bobbidi boo, and This Is Love. And I love Sing Sweet Nightingale sequence, I think is animated beautifully with the bubbles. And I love all the Mary Blair inspired backgrounds of the character of Cinderella. And a lot of people say, oh, well, she has to get rescued by a man, and that's not true. Her dress is torn apart. She is completely devastated. And you know who rescues her? A woman in The Fairy Godmother. She just wants a break. She just wants freedom. She's not out there to try to get married. That's not the goal of the movie. She wants a break, and it just so happens that the prince falls in love with her. And Lady Tremaine is such a great villain. I love the green eyes. I love the fact she has a cat named Lucifer. And I love the mice. I have a video of the mice without the high-pitched voices. And you know what? It's not as good. It's not. It's just not the mice. Like, I guess I just know them in that way. And I think the fact that Cinderella is able to make friends, and she's such a loyal person, and that the friends they love her so much, shows what a good person I think she is. Number 4 in my list is The Little Mermaid. And this will also be no big surprise. Some people might be surprised that it's not number 1, because it was the most important movie to me as a child. I was just visiting my brother, and we were talking about his little girls in Frozen, and he was like, well, they certainly weren't talking and watching it for 2 years like you were with The Little Mermaid. Story about a person who's uncomfortable in their own skin. And I just really responded. I really related to her journey, because I felt that way about my family. I felt like I was so different from everybody else in my family. And I felt like I was speaking sometimes a different language than they were. And, just the great Ashman-Menken music with Part of Your World. And you even get really funny songs like Les Poissons and Under the Sea and Kiss the Girl. Under the Sea, where each instrument is a different fish. And so by the end, you get all of these colors, all of these animals, and all of these instruments that are all playing in this great orchestration. And it's just so cheerful and funny. And I just love her journey. I love Ursula as a villain. I think she is just hilarious as this sort of drag queen truck driver type voice. A lot of people say, oh, well, that all she learns is to complain and get her way. I disagree. I actually don't think it is her movie to learn something. I think it is Triton who learns something. He learns that he was not allowing his daughter to be the person that she was supposed to be. And that's why he transitions her at the end of the movie. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with the parent learning something? And it's not like she learns nothing. She learns that she was being a little bit short-sighted and that she was being a little bit selfish, but she had no other options. She had nowhere else to go. There was no other way that she was going to be. It's like Sebastian says, she would be miserable for the rest of her life. And just so many amazing touches, like the fact there are a million bubbles. It really feels like you're under the sea. It feels like they cared about the world they were creating. 3, I have Spirited Away. And Spirited Away is probably the most original film I have ever seen in my life, live action or otherwise. I literally had no idea what was coming up next. I didn't know if it would be the giant baby or the Yobaba, witch character, or the Spider-Man, or the little black, cute little coal creatures, or the dragon that turns into paper, or it's just so creative, and it just blew me away, and it still blows me away when I watch it. It's about a girl that starts out being very selfish and self-centered, but she learns through this journey to take command of herself and to take responsibility for herself, and to be not just be this whiny creature, but to be a woman. And that's just awesome, I think. And it's got amazing music by Joe Hisaishi, and it's just, the animation is stunning. Number 2 in my countdown is Beauty and the Beast, and this has a lot of the same things that I love about Little Mermaid. Of course, you have your Ashman making music. This was a real labor of love for Howard Ashman. He died before it was released. They basically moved the whole production up to a Holiday Inn by his house so that he could do it the last year of his life, which is just, they should make a movie about him. Like, amazing human being. And you can just see that sense of love that's put into this film. And the fact that you could tell that if it was going to be his masterpiece, they were going to make it all of their masterpieces, and I think they succeeded. The way they were able to combine the caps, computer animation, with the regular animation to create scenes like the ballroom scene, the introductory scene, that you have a character like Gaston, who's basically the town hero, that everybody loves, and he lets one person not liking him just eat at him and eat at him and eat at him and eat at him, and he becomes a beast by the end, which is plot holes in Beauty and the Beast. But I love a quote by Emma Thompson where she says, "You only notice the craft service table in the shot in a bad movie." And that's really true. You only notice the plot holes in a bad movie. In a good movie, you don't care because you're so absorbed in the story. And that's how I feel about Beauty and the Beast. And you really see the transition of the Beast as he goes from being a beast of a human being, a beast of a whatever, to you see him change bit by bit by bit until he's really willing to sacrifice himself for Belle. And you can see why she starts to fall for him. And that's really beautiful. And the voice casting is amazing. And you have such great characters like Lumiere and Mrs. Potts, and Angela Lansbury as the voice is just incredible. And Jerry Orbach. And and Belle is such a wonderful character. She's sort of the princess that all of us want to be if we were going to be a Disney princess, because she's smart and she's loyal and she's strong and she's beautiful. My number 1, I've really talked about it so much on this channel, it cannot be a surprise to anybody. My number 1 is Up. Up's my favorite movie, so of course it's my favorite animated movie. It's the movie that makes me think of my grandpa when I see it. It makes me cry like multiple times throughout the whole course of the movie, but then it also has a few little breaks that make me laugh. It's a story about how grief can paralyze your life, and it's this character Carl and how he learns to overcome his grief. And it's also a story about travel, and how travel and really any goal, any dream can motivate you to get through even the hardest times of life. And I just love the way that Carl talks to Ellie throughout the whole movie, and it reminded me that the people that have left us are still a part of our life as long as we remember them. And I love the music. Christopher Plummer is the voice of the villain. Great. I like Russell. I like Kevin. I like Doug. I think the dogs are really funny. I just think it is so moving. And when of course we know that beginning of the life of Ellie and Carl is stunning, beautiful. One of the probably it's probably one of my favorite moments of film, of any movie. And then at the end, though, that when he is looking through the album and he sees the note from Ellie and it says, thanks for the great adventure. Oh my gosh, like it, even just talking about it, it makes me tear up because that he knew that he had been forgiven. And in a lot of ways, it's a lot like Song of the Sea, you know, that he realized that Ellie was not angry with him because of the fact that he didn't give her the life that he thought she deserved. That she had forgiven him and that she loved him. It's just beautiful. And I love that moment so much. And, you know, it's so easy to live with this regret and you wish you had said something, you wish you had done something, you wish you'd had this great experience, but the people are gone and you can't have it anymore. And so I just love that about the film. And I think it looks beautiful. I think it's really creative and really different. And so yeah, Up's my favorite movie, Up's my favorite animated film. So that's my top 10. Let me know what you think of these choices and put in the comment section below. And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you later. Bye.